Hi folks, welcome to your latest Planning Outlook. This updated on Friday the 14th of August. As we start the weekend, things are looking good for many places. Scotland in particular looking dry and warm throughout. Some thunderstorms though present still again across Wales, and there may be some rain just edging further north with time across England as well. Early next week is a slow-moving, complicated, thundery mixture, particularly across England and Wales. Eventually things get a bit of a move on as Atlantic weather patterns steam back in from midweek onwards. Let's just first of all set the scene then with just a glance at some of the slightly more technical details of what's going on, and this chart to tell you the general story of how the weather patterns will unfold. This shows you the surface pressure patterns, the white isobars shown on this chart, the colours representing temperatures at what we call middle layers in the atmosphere. In this occasion that's around 5 kilometres or so above the surface, and that gives us a general steer for where the overall weather patterns are going. In recent times, we've had some very hot and humid air which has been drawn out of Central and Southern Europe, and that's been the driving factor for the big thunderstorms that we've seen. In the days ahead, our weather patterns will gradually be influenced more by a little zone of cooler air at middle layers in the atmosphere, represented here by the paler colours on the chart just around the Bay of Biscay, and that essentially is what we call a cut-off area of low pressure. It's one which is detached from the general jet stream flow and is really just lumbering around in rather dizzy circles, basically. These things are never easy for us as forecasters to know exactly what they're going to do, because they will just bring very slowly evolving weather patterns and can make detail and the progression of the weather story very tricky a few days down the line. But we can give the view that this will bring some bursts of rain and thunderstorms as instability gets to work again with that cooler air just higher up in the atmosphere engaging with warmer air lower down. Higher pressure stays across the northern half of the British Isles, keeping Scotland mainly into good conditions for a few more days, whilst that lower pressure area influences England and Wales. Then cast your eye over the Atlantic, because we're looking at a few features starting to develop. One is a zone of much cooler air that's coming off the south of Greenland. Another is a zone of low pressure coming out of the subtropics. Those two areas merging over the Atlantic, and that's what then fires up the jet stream and starts to drive things back in with a bit more strength as southwesterlies from the Atlantic, and that will develop what looks like quite a deep area of low pressure as we go through the middle part of the upcoming week. And as we head towards the back end of the week and next weekend, it's likely in one shape or form that that generally cooler air mass off the North Atlantic has moved across us with low pressure in charge for more classically cool, wet and windy weather driven off the North Atlantic. The heat and humidity long gone in the story by that time. So that's your spoiler alert in terms of where things are going further ahead. Let's see if we can pick the bones out of the shorter term details then. This is for Saturday, high pressure to the north. We've got that generally fair picture across much of northern Britain. We do though still have that damp North Sea air that's in place, and that once again will produce a lot of low cloud and fog across these eastern regions. Some fog patches pretty widely to low levels in the morning, with some inversion conditions in places, some higher tops above that fog layer. It will be slowest to clear across those more eastern districts and some of those parts of the eastern highlands and around the borders and Cheviots, and the northeast Pennines may hold that low cloud well into the afternoon for foggy conditions here, whilst further central and western parts of Scotland and northern England are in for some sunshine pretty widely. Risk across Wales, though, of some thunderstorms being around. The risk seems greatest toward the south. Wouldn't rule out, though, that whole area just drifting further northwards as time is going on through Saturday. So bit of a tricky one there. Just keep an eye on things across Snowdonia for things going downhill, for some thundery rain developing, and wouldn't rule out a few bursts of rain running northwards into the Peak District from this area as well, particularly later on in the day. Sunday is a very similar story. Once again, the greatest risk of rain and thunderstorms is across Wales, and that may well just be around in slow-moving bursts through the course of the day. Further north, again, it's a good story for the majority, with that caveat of the fog around eastern regions once again. and some uncertainty just to what extent a few clusters of pulses of rain may just run northwestwards across northern England, even into the south of Scotland as time goes on Sunday. These may well fizzle out to next to nothing, but just the risk of one or two showers getting a bit further northwards through Sunday daytime. That easterly wind will remain quite gusty around the Pennines and Lake District and across Snowdonia as well, whilst for Scotland the winds are generally light and plenty of sunshine around once again, best of the warmth across the west and the north. Now, by Monday, that zone of low pressure is just pulling a little bit further northwards, so that risk of some outbreaks of thunderstorms gets more extensive as we go through the day. Slow-moving systems where the wind is very light in the centre of the low, so if you get underneath the thundery rain, chances are there's some heavy bursts that will be prolonged. Some torrential falls may well get going as Monday daytime unfolds. Further north into Scotland, one or two patches of rain just may be drifting in from the southeast. Again, some of those eastern regions plagued with low cloud still coming off the North Sea. For a fair part of the Highlands, though, still a pretty good chance of getting away with a dry day with some sunshine and broken cloud. Now, very awkward to know if this is just how Tuesday will look by the time we get there, but the idea seems to be that low pressure is dragging its way a bit further north and eastwards. It may turn that wind flow a bit more into a westerly across England and Wales, but a rather unstable pattern where there's showers with some heavy bursts of rain and possible thunder mixed in at times, and the scope for some thundery rain also to pop up further northwards into Scotland if that low and its humidity has just been drawn a bit further northwards once again. We then get into something of a gap as we go through into Wednesday before those Atlantic patterns start to show themselves and move in. Now that could be starting to arrive later on in the day across southwestern Britain and Ireland, but it could well be that Wednesday just falls in between patterns for light winds, one or two residual heavy showers possible, but also a decent amount of dry weather before patterns change from the southwest. Most likely in the second half of the week then, those Atlantic lows will spin in, and it's quite a change of pattern then in that respect. For much windier conditions, the risk of gales or even severe gales at times on the mountains if these lows do deepen considerably. Some heavy belts of rain sweeping northwards and eastwards, some heavy showers with possible thunder mixed in will follow. And that seems to set the scene for the rest of the week. Eventually the lows pulling eastwards and that cooler air mass off the North Atlantic being the one that dominates and may well just leave a generally cool, blustery, showery pattern as we head towards the following weekend, with the wind flow coming around as a northwesterly. It may not be too long though before the next low over the Atlantic starts to deepen and approaches from the southwest. That may be as we go onwards into the following week. So it looks as though we've got some rather changeable, unsettled and cooler patterns as we go further down the line. We'll keep you up to date with all of that, and you can stay up to date with all your local forecasts, of course, every day on our website. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.